This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. I am Rich Spicer. My co-host is Katie Huckle. This whole enterprise from the beginning has been sponsored by Independent Bank, and we thank them for that. And Katie, I think we now have a leader in the most guest appearances on this show.
Frequent flyer. We've got a frequent flyer, one of our favorites, the Cadillac Area YMCA Director, Mike Kelso. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. I didn't know I was a leader in that category.
I think you've taken the lead.
Good records.
You, Sally Goggin, Chef Herman, our folks at Munson Hospital, those are some of our frequent flyers. And you want to know why? Because you're doing important work in the community, Mike. One of my personal favorite things to see is when big talent works for nonprofits. Truly, you could go anywhere. I've worked with Mike on projects for years, Rich, and he is one smart fella. And so to see someone commit to the improvement of a nonprofit and a handoff from Dan Smith to you, it has been a smooth transition and a big success. So we just want to hear what you're up to this year.
Wow, I'm flattered. I don't know what to do with all that. So
work with me, Mike.
All right.
28 and a half minutes.
You set the bar very high there.
What's going on at the Y? That's what we want.
Well, it is hopping, and we are very busy. I was telling Rich earlier, this is our busiest time of year. January, February, we peak at March, and then spring springs, and then things kind of level out a bit. So our swim team just wrapped up. So our Y swim team just wrapped up, had their banquet here last Friday. Most kids we've ever had on that. I think we've had one go to state each year. For a couple of years, we had 4 or 5 this year, made it to state competition. So
awesome.
John, our swim coach, is super happy with that. And just it was great. He has me kind of sign their certificates.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, I know this kid. I remember when they were a preschooler and things like that. And how their family's been a part of the Y. And then I see the name of a family that just moved here from downstate in the last couple of years. And now they're getting involved in the community and their kids are on the swim team. And so, that's how I get to experience those things a bit now in my position.
Right.
And that's just, you catch those things and they're great. Our teen programming after school, you got to love middle schoolers if you want to be at the Y between 3 and 5 p.m. especially. It is hopping. There is energy that we harness and try to point in the right direction as best we can. And that is a rewarding and challenging thing. But when we see them grow up too and become good citizens of our community, it's great.
It gives those kids a place to go instead of sitting at home when mom and dad are working and the first thing they're going to do is flop on the couch and grab the phone. Or so it's great programming.
It really is, and healthy behaviors. We're learning healthy behaviors at a young age. I'm very proud of one of my best friends because in her 70s, she was never an athlete, and you'll figure out who it is very quickly here. She has a sweatshirt that says "Theater is my sport." She recently joined the Y and is working out with you guys, and I'm like, yes, it's awesome.
Yep, yeah, and that's a great example. Usually in that point of life, people come to the Y and they find their little community within that bigger community.
Sure.
So about our especially our water fitness classes or any of our fitness classes. Or if they start working out at the same time, they find somebody else who's doing it at the same time, and then they're workout buddies all of a sudden.
Right, and it's been proven that if you have a friend that holds you accountable with those workout and fitness goals, that you're more apt to succeed. Dr. Whalen told us that. And so when you talk about you're at your peak, I know why. January, New Year's resolutions, March, spring break.
Yep.
I think it's related, I do.
Yep. Yeah, and there's just, certain people don't like to be out in the cold as much.
Sure.
The outdoor winter sports season was hard. Obviously ski resorts kept up with making snow, but a lot of the other things, it was a little harder based on natural snow, and that kept us a little busier too. So
right. So I have a confession to make, Mike, because my kids were in your summer daycare program.
Yep.
And I was the mom that got the note about unhealthy snacks, as in donuts and Doritos and things that I would bring in, or I'd have pizzas delivered to the kids while they were in daycare. And I got a note that said, Mrs. Huckle, this is the YMCA, and we like to encourage exercise and healthy eating. And so if you could please, and I was like, oh, got it. I got it. So we went into fruits and vegetables and
there you go.
proteins.
It's hard sometimes. Life is busy. Sometimes you're just trying to keep your kids alive, right? Let's just be honest. So my wife was gone for almost a week here recently with my oldest son. She went on his marching band trip. It was just me and the other two boys. And my wife is the CEO of our house. And when she's gone, I'm lost.
Ooh, so what happened?
Everyone's still alive. Nothing bad happened. A lot of good things probably didn't happen, but nothing bad happened.
Right. So like pizza and tacos type thing?
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe some fast food.
There you go. Yeah. So
tell us about the financial health of the Y. How's it going?
we're doing well. I mean, obviously every place had some scary times in the last 2 or 3 years. And we had that too. Got real conservative with things for a bit, and very thankful for our donors and our members who stuck with us, especially when we didn't feel like we were doing much. I mean, we were doing things, but and then did well on leveraging the relief funds from the government, and bounced back really well after we got through being closed, and then really a year of restrictions. After that, we really started ramping up and bouncing back well.
I would think a facility like yours would have been the first thing to fill up again. Is that what you found?
No.
Oh, really?
Actually not. Nope.
Okay.
Well, I think there was still just a lot of cautiousness. And really, we were from June of 20 to June of 2021, very restricted and very low. And so really 2022 was bounce back year, and that ramped up. And by the time we got to the second half of the year, we felt normal. And then, it was the last 2 quarters of 2022 that we were like, all right, this is where we were before, right? In 2018, 19. And at this point, we're, as far as membership, we are at our previous peak and a little beyond.
No kidding.
Financially.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we're a membership revenue. Our program, we did lose some programs during COVID, and then getting those restarted is different. And so we're kind of looking at what other things are we going to do and where can we expand in that. But financially, between relief money and membership going above where it was previously, we're feeling pretty good. Now it's just adjusting to how the needs of people have changed, especially in our youth population. That's where I feel like that's changed the most.
Can you tell us about those changes?
Yeah. So we mostly serve in the after school teen program, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, high school too, but it's mostly 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th graders. Our volume of that is back up to where it was, if not more. This time of year, we're 60, 70 kids a day who sign into the teen center, let alone the rest of the Y, which is a lot.
That's a lot of kids.
What we found when we really, like I said, middle of 2022, was the needs of kids at that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level had significantly increased socially and mentally. Not knowing how to socialize in that open setting as well and have those skills as much as they did previously, and struggles of anxiety and things that just kind of set them off at a much higher level on the volume.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we gotta get on that. And we've done some things that have helped that, but it's not, to be honest, it's still a struggle. And we really feel like we need more resources in that. People wise and space wise, staff wise and space wise. So.
I would think that would be not just a Y need, but a school wide need.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, we did hear from Jim Whalen, Dr. Whalen, that a large population of our elementary students are suffering from anxiety and depression, Mike. And it's heartbreaking.
Yep. Yeah. So you've got, we mostly serve in that realm, that middle school age, but then you also have the early childhood age, where there's a large segment of what are now some of our kindergartners this year in our public schools, but also still in preschool, that missed starting early childhood education when they normally would. And that's putting kindergartners well behind, and also ones entering early childhood, preschool, GSRP, Head Start a little bit later, and the needs there are a lot higher too. So I'd say those 2 populations, we saw it affect the most, or those that we serve the most.
So if money were no object, and there was a donor out there that wanted to write a large check, believed in the mission of the Y, where would you put that money?
Well, we're about to hopefully the next few years really put that into a real plan.
Okay.
We're working on our strategic planning right now, and expansion needs are pretty high on the list. I would have a whole nother teen room where we could do some focus stuff rather than just having space for drop-in, because you can only go so deep in providing services that way. And we do that now, but we kind of do it in a preschool room that isn't ideal in. And we just need more space to do special programs and spin off of that. Some more ideal early childhood space. We have a lot of shared spaces where it kind of holds us back. Just trying to leverage the square footage we had when we started 13 years ago. And we've definitely done that and more.
Right.
Mike, I was going to ask that. So 13 years ago, it's hard to believe it was 13 years ago that this building was built, because in a way it seems like yesterday. But it was built with the idea that you could expand, that you had areas that you could add on to it. So that's the idea eventually.
Yeah, we're pretty much plopped right in the middle of 10 acres of Baker College property there on the campus. So we can go out all sides, other sides easier than others, of course. But yeah, we definitely have space to do that. So yeah, just, our west hallway, which is basically like classroom, meeting room, just pretty basic rooms. Like if we could double the width of that and bump out to our sidewalk and add some more rooms that really could evolve over years, right? Like right now it's teams, like there's space. If that evolves to something else, decade from now, we can use it for something else. So that's probably where I would push to start, which is actually the least expensive space to build. Then you get into fitness space and gym space, and the most expensive is pool.
Sure.
So, and there's certain times of the day and certain times of the year we could use twice as much building as we have. It's just going through that strategically and making good strategic decisions on where you expand and how are you going to maintain it. That's the trick. I can dream up tens of millions of dollars for you, no problem. Things to build. Yeah, how do we operate it and sustain it? That's the trick.
So are you doing? Are you studying and trying to forecast the needs of the youngest children, or maybe children who aren't even born yet at this point? While you're
so plans? I think that's to come. So we've always had a strategic plan, and this last one was 2019 through 2022. Well, that went on the shelf in 2020 when we went into survival mode, right?
Sure.
So we really said last year in 2022, we were just happy to be recovering. And I said, we can't just sit here and be happy recovering. We got to think about what's next. So we've had an initial strategic plan workshop with our full board and lead staff. Now we're going to have an ad hoc committee start here in April, putting some objectives and deliverables to that. And typically what happens when you start looking at expansion for a YMCA is first you're doing some feasibility studies, market studies. What's your needs, taking the needs assessment that have already been done. The hospital, health department, all those things have been done, but leveraging those and then maybe looking for some other pieces too. And identifying the need, what's the feasibility just based on populace and market stuff, and then what's your perceived capacity for donors at the time. And that's how you really take those dreams and bring them to a point of achievable reality. And then you take action on a capital campaign and making building plans and whatnot. But you want to study it well and not just get excited and build something, go, great, what are we going to do with it now? That doesn't tend to work out very well.
Well, and I have found in the Cadillac community that if you demonstrate a need, that the community will step up.
Yeah, you've got to, I feel like we've proven ourselves as an organization. That was the first thing we had to do 13 plus years ago, right? Now we've proven ourselves. Now you have to demonstrate and compel the need and the support to do that. I think that's what we're getting lined up for next. So
awesome. I think back to my lunches with Barry Dillon and her vision and the family's vision, and I just know that she's smiling on all of this, and what you guys have. You've made dreams come true, and you've brought things to Cadillac that we wouldn't have had without the YMCA. We wouldn't have had a swimming program at the high school level. We wouldn't have lacrosse without the Y. The Y has truly become a flagship leader in the community, Mike.
Yep. Yeah, I got Mary looking over my shoulder every day. I have a nice drawing that Charlie Thompson did of her years ago.
Is that right?
Yep, it's hanging on my wall.
Nice. You're
Yep.
giving me the chills.
Yep.
You're giving me the chills.
Mary's looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd have these lunches. As you know, she was a swimming instructor.
Yep.
And she was my oldest, his swimming instructor. And for her to, take that passion for teaching people to swim and turn it into that incredible donation, but also the push and the fight for a why. And she was soft but carried a big stick or velvet gloves or whatever kind of analogy or comparison you'd like to use. She was soft-spoken, but boy, when Mary talked, people listened.
Yep. Yeah, persistent with the vision.
Yes.
That's how I think a lot of where we're at.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your board, Mike. Yeah. The folks who serve on it and how it's made up and kind of, I'm sure you have staggered lengths of serving so that the people come on and off and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your board and how it's made up.
Yeah, so I think technically by bylaws, we're going to have between 9 and 30 board members. We kind of think our sweet spot is 15. Mm-hmm. So that's usually where we try to be, and that's where we're at right now. And they do 3-year terms. So, if nobody comes off prematurely, like by theory, every 3 years, you can repeat. So you can be on the board, long term. You can't stay an officer, for more than two cycles. You have to come off of that. But so what it gives you the opportunity is every 3 years, you can say, all right, is this working for you? Are you fulfilling your commitments? Is this feeding you as a volunteer to a board member?
Sure.
And do you feel like you're contributing? And then, yes, this works for me. I want to continue. Then maybe we can go again. And that's really the board governance committee really looks at that. And then we're looking at our makeup of the board of diversity representing our community, right? So the old school way of boards was, hey, I know a person. I know a guy, right? Right? This is my buddy.
So true.
Right?
A warm body.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a warm body, but sometimes like, hey, I know a guy. And it just becomes a bunch of people that are of the same age bracket or the same demographics and all know each other. And that can be fun. And
doesn't represent the community.
It doesn't represent the community.
Right.
And then what happens when you have something come up that those people that all are very similar aren't experienced with or don't have a perception of empathy on? Then you're like, oh, we don't know what to do. Right. So that's, let's be real. Like we don't have the most diverse community, what most people assume, right, in the world. But our diversity is socioeconomic, our diversity is profession and education level, age, those types of things. Mm-hmm. For the most part, those are our most prevalent dimensions of diversity. And so we really look for that. But we also look for what do we think what's our current needs as an organization? What do we think we're going to do next? Mm-hmm. And what expertise do we need? So we try to say, we don't start with talking about who we want, like names. We talk about what we need as far as skills and experience and outlook, and then we put a name to it. Mm-hmm. And that helps you try to stay disciplined and not just getting your buddies, trying to find people with the right experience and point in life.
We call that stacking the board.
Yeah.
When your executive director brings on their buddies, that's called stacking the board. And you're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
So among the current board, what's the oldest and the youngest in terms of age?
We have someone in their 70s, I think, at least mid 70s. I better be careful. She says she's the oldest on the board, and I believe her. And then we've got one who's probably just a little over 30.
Okay.
We had somebody under 30 for a few years who's not on the board anymore, but is on committee.
Okay.
Still, so
nice.
Which is interesting. Like, I totally, I'm kind of in the middle, right, of that. So I see the generational things that come out, which is great, but you got to work that and manage that and bring it forward when maybe it's not coming forward, when you not lose those perspectives.
Right.
So.
Right. Back to children. 3 boys you're raising.
Yep.
Your wife, the Kelso boys, and kids that, like Rich said, migrate to their phone after school or, frankly, whenever they have a free second. Right. What?
even if it's not the appropriate time. Yeah.
Totally. Mike, what should we, as community members, as parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, as mentors to children, what should we be doing with kids and phones?
Yeah, I think we went through a time of Well, one, we just don't know what to do with it, right?
We don't?
Like, I think we're all, as parents and adults, getting better at that because it's more of our part of our lives too.
Right.
But the kids got on it quicker.
Yes.
As far as how deep they could go into the apps and stuff. I think we've got to say they're here and they're here to stay, and it's going to be a major part of their life. Just
Okay.
need to accept that.
Okay.
But give it boundaries as far as the where, the when, the how much, and what it is that you're doing on that phone, and create those expectations as a family, right? And that's going to be different for different people.
Right.
But creating those boundaries, and then I think being deliberate about when and seeing when somebody's struggling with it,
Okay.
right? Like, I think you're kind of getting a little addicted to YouTube, and I'm there a little too much, and you're not responsive, you're zoning out, and you're procrastinating things, and maybe talking about my own life and my own things right now a little bit.
If I have to ask 4 times
Right.
for you to respond to me,
Yep.
you're a little bit too deep into it.
Or with me, when I have young, my kids are older now, but when I have younger kids over, if I've made a beautiful dinner, hello, I would like everyone to put the phone down
Yep.
during dinner, please.
Yeah, so that's just setting boundaries,
Okay.
right? Yep, that's
Yeah.
setting boundaries. And it doesn't have to be huge things. I feel like I've had a lot of conversation with parents is like, they don't fully understand what they're doing, what their child is doing with that phone. And so they don't know what to do. So they don't do anything until it is a blow up. And it's like, that's it. I'm just taking it away from you and you can't have it anymore. That usually doesn't go over too well in the parental child relationship of a teenager who wants to be more independent.
Well, it's punishing the parent too.
Yeah. Well, they find that out. So it's like, don't try not to get paralyzed in not knowing how to do it perfectly. Just do what makes sense and create boundaries.
I have a woman that I do a lot of business with, and she shared with me recently that she's got a freshman in high school, and that at night the phone goes into her room at night.
Yep.
So bedtime's 10 o'clock, and she's off the phone at that time. And I really liked that idea as a restriction.
Boundaries.
Okay.
Well,
boundaries.
and they do say that you really don't want to be staring at a screen a half hour because it's going to cut into your sleeping time because your brain is active.
Right. That's true. I've heard that too. You don't sleep as well. All the things that you're supposed to be doing to wind down and get ready for a good night's rest, like not bright lights, not a lot of noise, maybe a bath, calming smells, that kind of thing. Let's talk about your superstar fundraiser, Dancing with the Wise Stars. How much money did you raise this year?
$38,000 this year.
Wow.
Yep.
In one night.
That might be the biggest single fundraising event during the year in Cadillac. Would you estimate that?
Probably not 38, to be honest. Like, it was kind of a low year for us.
Okay.
We're in the previous years, we've been 40, 50, 60 at times.
But
so we want to get back to that.
I'm talking about, but I am talking about other.
Right.
If it may not have been your biggest year,
Yeah.
but probably individually for nonprofits, that's huge.
Yeah, that is huge, and it's our one biggie for the year. We have a couple other little things, and obviously one-on-one personal things. But yeah, so we've had our second meeting to start getting ready with our committee this year. Made a little bigger committee, get a little more help for me, and delegate a little more things. It's a beast of an event.
It sure is.
But people sure love it and get excited about it, and so right now we're recruiting, nominating cast members right now.
Okay.
We're in that process.
Your dancers.
Our dancers and choreographers too. So, yep, we have a lot of repeat choreographers, but sometimes it's not a year that they can do it. So we definitely ask every year, and some have done it every year. So yeah, that process for dancers is really, we're asking them to commit to us before we're necessarily committing to them. We kind of lay out the expectations of, here's the schedule typically, and here's how this works, and here's when we let you know, and kind of lay out the calendar of between now and the second Saturday of October. But once we get enough names, then we're looking at matchups and are we getting the right circle? To be honest, like, we want the right social circles and professional circles there who have the ability and desire to support our organization. So we got to check the boxes of those things, and get the right matchup. So that's where we're at. We just had our second committee meeting last night, and we're off to a good start.
And I do have to tell you, on a personal level, back in 2021, Carly Bortman was the videographer for that event, and she was able to parlay that experience into an apprenticeship at 9 and 10, which she's still there.
Awesome.
About 16 months into her employment there. And the experience that she got by being the videographer for that event, as well as shooting all of the intro videos for all of the couples, was just an incredible thing for her. And
sort of launched her.
It launched her. It really did.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's for her, like, getting to work with all these different personalities and different settings and different challenges. Like, I don't know that business, but just seeing Rich, you and her interacting in that time and you teaching her in that environment was really cool to see. Yep.
Mm-hmm. He teaches so many people, and they always come back and they share events in their life with him. Like, he's like that uncle. The kids graduate, but they never leave Rich. He knows.
I have 4 kids of my own, but I think I have several hundred more that I consider my own.
I know it. It's just incredible. Yeah. I want to go back to the actual experience, because these dancers all become friends.
Yeah.
They grow as people. They challenge themselves. And so watching them and their energy, it's just such an exciting thing to be a part of. And everybody brings their A game. I mean, nobody wants to be the slug. Nobody wants to be the person that didn't get in enough rehearsals in. Because, how many people did you have there?
Yeah, I mean, we're 700 people.
700.
Like 660 some tickets. And yeah, there's 700 people plus in the room.
I don't know. I know a lot of folks that have danced, and I don't know one that didn't have the time of their life. I have a girlfriend, though, that she told me she didn't practice enough. And I said, I'm sure it's fine. She goes, no, I'm telling you, I didn't practice enough. And she says, this is several years ago, and I won't mention names. She says, Katie, when I do these lifts, I look like a wet fish. I'm just flopping around. So I'm emceeing, and she gets up there, and I'm like, oh dear. She does look like a wet fish. And her partner said afterwards, I told you we needed more rehearsals. So good for you that you're making sure that someone knows what they're signing up for before committing, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're like, all right, this is the commitment. This is the big commitment. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be work, and we need you to see it through. We're counting on you, and here's how we're going to support you. And that's, we go back and forth. Our committee is like, all right, how are we supporting our choreographers? How are we supporting our dancers? They're all volunteering for us and putting in a lot of work. So they've got to do their part of the work, and we've got to do our part of the work as the staff and the committee to support them as best we can in that. So I love it because I get to meet new people, or if they're not new to me, I get to work with them in a very different way,
right?
Every year, and that's very fun. And I think for adults, for a lot of them, it's a new experience. And, and it's mostly people that are professionals and working. Sometimes we have some retiree age folks. But you get into that grind of like, I'm just working, I'm just parenting, I'm just this, I'm just doing, it feels like, which is great stuff, but it can get mundane and
going through the motions.
Yeah, right. Like, can just capture your being. You're like, I don't get to do fun stuff anymore, like it was a kid or in my 20s or whatever.
Right.
And so a lot of them kind of come away with that. I think that helps a lot. And like, I never thought I would do something like this.
Right.
And right. Or I've always wanted to do this, but I've never had the chance, and that's kind of cool to see. And
that enthusiasm is overflow to other people too.
Yep.
Pat, as we know, Pat Goggin was the ultimate recruiter of dancers. He could have talked Eskimos into buying ice cubes, that man, but he got so many of the dancers recruited, and it just, the whole thing built momentum, and now it truly is, like I said, the flagship fundraising event and superstar night of the year in Cadillac. So hats off to you there. Our listeners, our folks that are listening today and in the community, what can we be doing to support you and the mission of the Y?
I think advocating for just anything that supports youth development. I feel like that's the biggest need that has changed so much, and we're still in the last few years, and we're still reeling with a bit.
Okay.
And for us, that's, supporting our teen programs, our youth programs, and so anybody who can support that directly is great. But honestly, just advocating that in wherever they are in the community is huge.
Support our youngsters during a hard time.
Yep. Because those youngsters are, our next young adults and the next people that they're going to be taking care of me, you, and Rich in our home, in our old folks' home someday, Katie. So, we want them to be good.
We sure do. We
Thanks for leaving her out of that conversation. I'm sure she appreciates that too.
Exactly. Yeah. Mhm. It's going to be a minute, Rich.
Okay.
I need to give you a shout out and thank you, for your vision, for your leadership, for everything that you do for the community. You have not lost any steam. You came into this eyes wide open as Dan's right hand, and you've taken it to a new level. And we're very grateful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mike Kelso with the YMCA.
Next week, more local chat, sponsored by Independent Bank. Same time, same station. It is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY.